everyone, and I'm Tharwat Mansour. I'm a board member in the Franco-British Network. The Franco-British Network is a non-profit organization in France with the objective of helping the British people residing in France or those who are planning to move in the near future in overcoming their daily life challenges. Today, I'm doing a ChatFBN session. And if you would like to be notified always whenever we have a new ChatFBN uploaded to YouTube, please subscribe, press on the button below and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll get notification whenever there's a new session uploaded. With me today, I'm having a very expert person. I'm having a very well-known lawyer, Mr. Cedric Riviere, avocat in Périgueux. Thank you, Cedric, for being with us today.
You're welcome.
Today, our topic is a very important topic, and it is mainly about how can I benefit from the UK-French double tax treaty. So I know it's a very hot topic and everyone is interested. So here we go. We have the right person with us, and we'd start with our first question. Can you please, Cedric, tell us the key aspects about the UK-France double tax treaty, and how can the British people living here in France benefit from this treaty while putting their taxes?
Thank you, Tawat. In fact, it's quite difficult to spot something in particular because each client has a specific situation. So, but what I can say is, first of all, it's a good thing that France and the UK have this treaty because theoretically, in theory, it avoids paying tax twice in the UK and in France. But then in practical, it's sometimes difficult to have the local authorities, tax authorities here in France to apply the rules of the treaty correctly. But I think we'll talk about this later during the chat.
Okay. Well, in this topic specifically, I have no clue, so cannot comment. I'll just leave it up to you to be clear enough and tell everyone and the followers everything you think they should know. My second question, I know many clients come to you, but I don't know specifically what specifically are their queries and their questions and their problems. Can you please give us some input on why do British people living here in France come to you?
Yes, sure. Maybe the first reason is because I do speak English. I know I have a lot of colleagues who don't speak English. That's a shame according to me. But anyway, say this. Most of the time people are coming to me for income tax questions. Some of the cases I can see very frequently is the study of tax residency, because it's not always clearly assessed by the clients. There's a lot of confusion between having the legal right to stay in France under the withdrawal agreement, having a residence permit, a carte de séjour, and being tax resident with all the tax obligations of a tax resident. Most of the time there's a confusion between the two notions, and tax residency is something I can assess for the clients in regards of their circumstances, because it's always a question of facts and circumstances more than a question of choice. A lot of people think they've made the choice to be tax resident in France or in another country, but in fact their circumstances say something completely different. So it's very important to study this before they start filing in France, or not filing maybe, and receive a letter from the local tax office saying, according to us, you should have filed a tax return, or maybe on the opposite, paying some tax in France, whereas it shouldn't be an obligation for them because they are not actually tax residents of France. A lot of cases I can have also is about incorrect taxation of the income of my clients, and more specifically about UK rents that should be declared in France but not taxed. But I think we will talk about this later during the chats. And maybe another query is about the good application of the S1 when I have some clients who have an S1 certificate. The local tax offices are not really taking the S1 into consideration correctly and applying the correct tax rates or tax exemption. So I'm here to help solve this kind of problem.
Okay, clear enough. Thank you. And my third question is, can you tell me what are some of the opportunities, for example, to help people reducing the burden of putting up all their taxes? And how can they take opportunities from savings, from income coming like from their salaries, pension, mutual funds, etc.? How can they lesser the burden of their taxes?
I would say that basically my job is not to help them paying less tax, but just the correct price, in fact. But what I can say about this is that there's a lot of different schemes in France that we can use, especially for pensions, and more specifically on lump sums. We have a fixed rate of 7.5% income tax for lump sums, but you have to reach some very strict conditions. But we can also use what we call the exceptional income scheme. So if you intend to take your pension pot in one go, and if there's a lot of money in this pot, you can use this very specific scheme, which is not very well known in France. Basically, your tax is going to be calculated as if you were taking it over 4 years, and this will reduce the marginal rate of tax. So maybe there's something you can do on this. We can do some calculations to anticipate this and to be prepared, because most of the time when you use this kind of very specific schemes, the local tax office are asking questions and want to check if you reach all the conditions to do so.
And my fourth question, Cedric, you mentioned earlier that you help people putting up their claims. So in case there are any mistakes done by the post-tax, you help them putting back their claims. Can you give me some examples of those mistakes?
Sure. The first thing I can say is, according to me, it's a shame, even if this gives me a lot of work and clients. But when these people who have received an incorrect tax calculation are trying to deal with the tax office themselves, most of the time they don't have they have an answer, but not the good one. When it's me, because I'm a lawyer, most of the time the issue is solved very quickly. It's quite a shame that they have to use my services, but it's like this. The main mistakes I can see is about UK rents. As I said at the very beginning of the chat, UK rents have to be declared in France, but they are not taxed. In fact, they are just taken into consideration to calculate the marginal rate of tax applied on the other income. But what we see very often is that the tax office are not giving a tax credit to avoid double taxation. So I'm helping the client to claim against this miscalculations, and But in fact, what is very important is when you claim against this taxation of UK rents because you didn't receive the tax credit to avoid double taxation, you have to be sure that you have made a self-assessment in the UK to declare these UK rents. Even if you are under the UK personal allowance, even if you don't have to pay tax in the UK on these rents, you have to be sure that you have made your self-assessment, because you have to prove that you have declared the rent in the UK in order to receive the tax credit in France. And contrary to France, in the UK, you don't really receive a tax bill. And more specifically, if you don't pay tax, if you're under the personal allowance, I know it's not an obligation to file, so do it. And at the end, you don't receive an official document such as the French avis d'imposition, because it's not like this in the UK. So you have to keep records of all the documents to prove that you have actually made your self-assessment in the UK. If you do it electronically, I know that you receive a confirmation email with your UTR number. And this should normally be enough to be sent to the local tax office to prove that you have made your self-assessment. Because HMRC, most of the time, they don't want to give you any attestation or any paper saying that you've done your self-assessment and that you've declared your UK rents. So try to keep records of all the document that will prove you have done this. Otherwise, you won't be able to have the tax credit in France, and you will have to pay income tax and social contributions on these UK rents.
Okay. Great deal of mistakes. Anyway, one of our my last general question for you is for the people who would like to come over in the near future from UK. So what advice can you give them related to anything, tax, income, investment? What can you advise them before they come to France?
I think what they should do before they come to France is seek advice before establishing themselves in France permanently on various questions, issues such as the sale of their main residence. Because if you establish in France and then sell your UK former main residence, you could be liable to capital gain tax here in France. So I think it's better if you can sell it before. You also have to think about taking some pensions lump sum benefits, such as 25 tax-free, because it's going to be 25% tax-free in the UK, but not in France. So it can be a good idea to take this lump sum before establishing permanently in France. And maybe something else I've seen in some cases with some clients, if they have a UK limited company, if they want to stop it before you come to France. Otherwise, if there are some distributions at the end of the process of the liquidation, it could be taxable in France. And I'm aware that you have some exemption in the UK, but not in France. So maybe it would be a good idea to do it before you establish in France permanently. But in any case, seek advice to someone and explain your circumstances, and they will tell you what you need to be careful of before you come to France.
Okay, very clear. So people, if you're planning to come to France in the near future, please seek advice before you move to avoid any problems in the future. Okay, I move now to some of the questions that were sent by our followers, and these are specific questions related to their situation in particular. And my first question is, someone sent, will there be tax payable in France on the sale of a property in the UK. I'm a French resident.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and my answer will be what we say, as we say in French, une réponse de Normand, Norman's response, because it's yes and no, in fact. When you sell property in the UK while being French tax residents, you have to know that everything has to be done, calculation of a gain, declaring the gain and potentially paying tax within 30 days of the sale. I see too many people coming to me the year after because they want to know how they should report this on their income tax return. But the sale of a UK property is not, you don't have to report, I mean, you don't report it on your annual income tax return. You have to do a specific return within 30 days of the sale. So you have to think about it and maybe seek advice before the actual sale. Basically, the rule is that we calculate the gain with the French rules, just as if it was a French property. And at the end, if there's a gain and a capital gain tax, we offset the UK tax paid. We also have to take into consideration exchange rates, and in some cases, you can have an exchange gain or loss. So it's once again very difficult to answer this question without all the information about the sale and all the figures. And because in France we have deductions on the gain for long-term ownership. So basically, the more you own the place, the less tax you will pay at the end. So if you have this property for more than 30 years, there's no tax to pay. If it's less than 30, you have to seek advice and see and check if you don't have some tax to pay here in France.
Okay. It's very clear. So basically, again, they need an advice to be on the right path, but clear enough. Yeah. Okay, the second question from our follower is, I'm a resident of France less than 5 years, but I also have a property in the UK, which I'm renting out. Do I need to declare and pay any taxes on that income in France? So they're renting a property which is in UK.
Yes. So the fact that they've been resident less than 5 years doesn't, it's not really important, in fact. The 5 years of residency is going to be more important for wealth tax purposes. But for the rents, as I said before, yes, you have to declare the UK rents here in France. You don't pay French tax because you have a tax credit to avoid double taxation. But as I said before, only if you can prove that you've declared these rents in the UK. But once again, you don't pay tax in France, but the fact that you include it with your other income will increase your marginal rate and average tax rate. So you might pay slightly more income tax in France on your other income, but not actually on this income, these rents.
Okay, clear. My third question is, some of the followers sent, what are the steps to take to establish that for one tax year, I will not be a tax resident in France. A residence in France will be resumed after 1 year, returning from a non-EU country.
So basically, the first thing you have to do is notify the local tax office of your change of address. You can do this on your account with the website impot.gouv. If you have a personal account with the tax administration here in France, the online account. So do this as soon as you leave. Indicate your new address in the other country. And during this period, be sure that your circumstances don't make you French tax resident, because, as I told you before, the tax residency is really much more complex than what people think in general. It's not only a question of days, sorry. It's not, there are different rules, different criterion here in France, and also in the other country. And you have to be sure that the country where you're going to live during 1 year has signed a treaty with France, because if there's a conflict of jurisdiction in regards of your tax residency, if there's a conflict between the two countries, you will resolve this issue with the double tax treaty provisions. Fortunately, France is, I think, with the United States, they are the two countries who have the more tax treaties in the world. I don't remember the exact number of tax treaties, but France has a lot of tax treaties with different countries. So I don't know about this specific question and the country where this person is going to go, but yeah, you have to check if there's a treaty between France and this country.
Okay. And next question from a follower is, how are royalties for a book published in the UK taxed for a French tax main resident? And is research, writing, engagement with the publication process taking place in the UK and France?
That's a tough one, because taxation of royalties in France can be done under different schemes. And to be honest, to answer this question, I would need much more details. But basically, royalties can be taxed as a salary or can be taxed as a profit of a sort of sole trading business. So, yeah, and I understand that the research, writing, and engagement with publication process is taking place in both countries. It's interesting. I mean, it's necessary to know more about this, because the fact that it's published in the UK doesn't automatically make it taxable only in the UK. So once again, I would need much more details to be able to answer this question. Which is very specific, in fact.
Okay. And the last question that we received from our follower is, I have sent the form to HMRC requesting that I'll be taxed only in France, but as always, my dealings with them are impossible to get an answer. How do I know if they have received it, and how can I tell?
The problem is I'm not really dealing with the UK side of the cases. What I do in this situation is I refer them to some of my associates in the UK. And personally, I have no experience in exchanging with HMRC. So my advice would be to seek advice and help with a UK advisor who has experience in international taxation. But I assume that you will know, you will be able to tell that they've received your form once they will stop taking PAYE tax on your, I think it's about pensions, if I understand correctly. If they stop tax at source your income, this will mean that they've received your form. But I'm sorry, as I said, I'm not really dealing with HMRC. I'm just dealing with the tax office here in France, which is more than enough for me.
Okay, but as you said, you have connections in UK, so you can guide them if needed.
Sure. That's what I do when I have questions about the UK procedures, rules. I can recommend associates in the UK.
Okay. Well, these are all the questions that I had for you today. Is there anything else that you would like to mention, Cedric?
I know that you're the Franco-British network, but I also deal with different cases for US clients. And these are very interesting clients because, unfortunately for them, their local tax offices are really not good with the US-France treaty, and they are trying to make them pay a lot of tax in France, but the treaty says that as US citizens they shouldn't. So maybe some US citizen will have a look at this chat so about taxation in France. So it can also help US people with US income and many more, right?
Great. Okay. Good to know something new for me at least. Well, Cedric, myself, I honestly, though I'm not familiar at all with this topic, but it was very clear, lots of input, lots of valuable insights. I would like to thank you very much for your session today. My time was very valuable with you.
Thank you for inviting me, and it was a pleasure to answer these questions.
Thank you, Cedric. For all our followers, this is our lawyer, Mr. Cedric Riviere, a lawyer in Périgueux. This is our chat with him today. It was about how can we benefit from the UK-France double tax treaty. For all our followers, please stay tuned with us. And as I said earlier, please subscribe to our YouTube channel where you get notification about every new ChatFBN. There will be many throughout 2025. Some of them will be about tax, some of them about healthcare, residency, visa, driving licenses in France, importing cars from UK, and many, many other topics. If you need any help, please send us. If you have any query, send us to our helpline. We'll answer you by email free of charge. And if also you require further assistance, we'll be more than glad with putting you in connection with our service providers and experts. Thank you so much. And to another ChatFBN. Goodbye.